All right, welcome back everyone to Coffee and UFOs. It's been a really long time since I've done an episode of Coffee and UFOs, so there's no better way to kick it off again with a celebration of National Paranormal Day, and we have some awesome roundtable paranormal friends with us. All right, here we are. This is your roundtable. Cheryl Costa, Heidi Hollis, Tiffany Mac, and myself.
Hello.
Everyone in the chat, if you have any questions at all, please let us know. We'll try to get you in. If you have any questions, that's great. If you have any stories or celebration moments of the paranormal that you'd like to share, things that may be life-changing, because I know all four of us have had some kind of life-changing experience related to the paranormal or supernatural, and that's probably why we're involved in this. So Heidi, you were here last year, so thank you again for hanging out with us. Cheryl and Tiffany, thank you for joining last minute. For everybody out there, Natalie Fowler and Tui Snyder both had some issues that came up, so we're sending them positive energy, love, and wish them well, which I think they are. But, just to be on the safe side, let's put some energy out there for them. So thank you all for joining. And let's start with Cheryl. So, Cheryl, what excites you about the paranormal? Why do we care so much about this stuff?
I think the easiest words that I use to people is almost anybody you talk to has a ghost story, or they have that weird bump in the night story.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I have sat in my favorite diner, not in a booth, but at the bar, and get a conversation going with one of the waitresses about this as she's running by. And then sooner or later, somebody comes up. I got this story about, something that happened at my mother's house or after my grandmother died,
Yeah.
And so everybody has a story. We're all wading through this psychic stuff constantly. Some people are totally oblivious to it. Some of us, it's like, the only way I can explain it, somebody asked me the other day, what's it like being an empath? I said, consider what it would feel like if you stick your finger into a 220 socket. That's my life.
So is that exciting or no?
No, yes, it is. No, it's not, But I'll give you a goofy thing. Ever since I was in my middle teens, if I went into a cemetery, you know what it's like if you walk into a movie theater or a stage theater and there's a full audience and they haven't put the show up yet and everybody's chattering and everything like this.
Mm-hmm.
Since I was about 17, if I walk into a cemetery, a big one, I hear that kind of a murmuring chatter. Okay, that's what I'm aware of.
Sure.
Every now and then, a couple of times in my life, it's either somebody drops a door in my face, like at the post office or something like this, and I get a good whack on the head, and it goes away for a month, a couple of months, whatever. Okay, I had a shamanic retreat in 1994, and it went away for 2 years after that thing.
Interesting.
And right now we did some kind of really esoteric stuff about, back on week of April 4th. And it's quiet.
Is that a good thing?
Well,
I mean, you must need respite at some point.
My wife drives me by a cemetery right now and says, "Hear anything?" No, So right now I'm like everybody else. I'm oblivious to everything.
Well, Heidi, I know you're an empath. Tiff, are you an empath? Do you consider yourself?
Sorry, the mic was off. I don't like talking over anybody. Sorry. I don't consider myself a true empath. I do understand and feel things a little bit more so than the regular folk, I would say. Whether that's female intuition that I'm sort of gathering on a moment by moment basis, I don't know.
Mm.
I do feel like we've had a lot of women in our family who are more psychic and have a few different aspects of that. So I do gather the emotions of other people. So I know that that's something that drains a lot of empaths. And I'm sure that both of you feel that. So I would have to say maybe sometimes more than other.
Heidi?
Oh gosh. Well, I'm new to being dubbed any kind of title like that, and it's like when you said it, I felt that. Oh gosh,
that's true. Yeah, we talked about that before. Yeah.
Speaking about me, it's like I think that it's something I thought honestly that others could feel until I ran into some really numb Neanderthal types that it shocked me, to be honest, that wow, that they're not aware in that sense to feel that they're all connected. So when I got interviewed by Maureen Seaberg is when I really, I got thrown into these categories of synesthesia and being so sensitive to be a machine empath because I feel objects too. Yeah. But and my question, I was just like, well, what do you mean others don't feel that? And she's like, and that's exactly what a new synesthete says when they find out that that's what they're considered. So I just it's rather new to me, but yeah, but I think I'm learning a lot lately. I mean, it's been a whirlwind as far as that's concerned, but that growing up in a haunted house and feeling a presence of something else being around. And of course, there's like a whole band of things that hate my guts called Shadow People and Hat Man. But the thing that you asked about what excites about the paranormal, and because there's just no outright definition really, and there's so much that needs to be defined, and here I am probably the only person that I've known that have like defined two paranormal phenomenon and hoping to help do more, because there's just so much still to learn about all of it.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like science, right? I mean, we're discovering new entities or creatures, whatever, and you have to kind of categorize them and try to make some sense of it.
Exactly.
And so you've done your part in that for sure. I think that if you're, into the paranormal, you have to be sort of a sensitive person anyway. But what's the difference between a sensitive person and an empath? I mean, I've always been that person in the room. I can hear something like a buzzing, and I'm like, "Is there an electronic on in here?" Like, and there's nothing on.
Yeah, right? You feel the hum in your body.
You feel that kind of like slight hum, yeah. But that was just always, I can hear something that someone else can't. Yeah. Is that really an empath, or because that's an electronic? That's, I guess, more of like I don't know what.
But what happened? But it happens when you're out in a field with a cow too, doesn't it?
Yeah.
When you have a lot of really rich nature around you, or something really exciting or pure.
Yeah. Did you say out in a field with a cow?
Yeah, I mean, as an example, because I've definitely felt it in places that were not just buzzing with electricity.
Yeah, well, okay, so it reminded me of this time where I was walking by we were walking down a road, and there was a ranch, and there was this like solo cow that kind of like walked up to the edge of the gate, and I'm looking into this cow's like big, just innocent eye, and I just felt something for that cow, and I was like, this is why I can't eat you, I just can't do it. No offense to the meat eaters, love y'all, but I just can't. Like, I'm really sensitive to that sort of thing, But I think is being a sensitive person the same as being sensitive to have, like Cheryl, right? Like you can kind of sense a spirit in a room or something like that. Did you develop that, Cheryl, or
okay,
was that natural?
All right. There's a genetic component, the best we've been able to figure out. In fact, my spouse of 15 years makes this case very strongly. The clairvoyance runs down to my mother's side of the family, and North African Berber shamanism runs down my father's side of the family. So the Costa kids, the three of us, kind of got a double whammy of this stuff. Yeah. And my brother is only starting to embrace it now in his 50s. Now, I embraced it in my teens. My sister hid from it, didn't want to have anything to do with it. And in fact, to some degree, she has shunned me for a number of years. I mean, we're talking like almost 20 years. So doesn't want to be around it. What I think one of the interesting things with this is that when I brought a spouse into my household, And I've had several spouses over the years. And the goofy thing about it is, I learned that you have to take them aside before you get into that deep relationship and start getting down on one knee and that kind of thing. And say, I live in kind of a mystical household. The rules are a little different here. And that person will go, well, yeah, okay. Now, Linda came into my household 15 years ago, about a year before we got married. And she said, yeah, okay, fine. And if you talk to her now and ask her about what it's like to live in a mystical household, she'll say, it's different. And then she'll look at you and she'll say, the trick to living in a mystical household is you have to embrace the strangeness. And she has been exposed to a lot of it.
I think that's the trick. Natalie Fowler, who was on Paranormal Now last week, was talking about her investigations, and as a psychic medium, going into haunted places, and she has her spirit guides to help her guide ghosts, back to the light, that sort of thing. And we were talking about how I don't go out there looking for ghosts. But I'm not afraid of like something attaching to me, because I kind of feel like I just have a state of mind where I feel like I'm protected.
Do you also just feel curious though?
Oh, totally curious. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I've just never gone out like specifically looking for ghosts. Like if there was an abandoned house or something, that's cool to walk through, learning the history, but I've never seeked to like commune with them directly. But I'm also not afraid if I was with people doing that, because I don't know what it is, but I feel that I'm in a state where it won't affect me. And maybe that's what that is, Cheryl. It's like just being in the frame mind.
Let me ask you a question to the others, all of you. Anybody else notice this thing? I refer to it as the Christmas effect. Okay. For me, it starts around the 17th of December. Sometimes it's early as the 15th, but it's what I call a period of, taking lots of headache medicine, because the noise gets really loud. Okay. And as you get closer to Christmas, it's the proverbial Jacob Marley thing. It's you've got these people you do not know that know what you are and come to you and say, would you call my daughter in Cleveland, and would you like wire her a butterball turkey? And who are you? Oh, and how long you been dead? That kind of thing. And it drove me crazy for years. And I've talked to a few other people that deal with this thing just before the Christmas effect, and it dies off real quick right after Christmas. By the 26th, it's over with. But boy, it gets noisy. 17th to about the 24th, it's nasty.
That's interesting to hear. I don't think that I've had anything like that. The escalation of holidays, I do prepare and plan like a crazy person, but I don't think I feel that there's more activity or more heightened awareness of others at any specific time. I mean, I can't go to concerts. I can't go to places like that because I feel like I get rubbed by very strange entities. So beyond that, I just don't go in large groups. So maybe, like going into the holiday season, we start gathering together and we're planning on having more people around us. And maybe it's all of that anxiety coming out and your senses are just being thwarted and you're getting heightened awareness and visitations that way.
Yeah. What also, it would seem to me that the spirits would be sort of attracted to the gatherings, right? Because it's like a concentration of people, and the state of mind is on family and on communion. So
and
maybe
tradition.
Sure.
There's a lot of that. Yeah. But sometimes what it ends up being is something like one of the more memorable ones. A guy I went to high school with, his deceased father, dead 8 years or something like that, shows up and says, "Hey, my oldest son hasn't been talking to his younger sister for 10 years. Can you go see him and talk some sense into his head? Yeah, all right. I'll go see this friend from high school that I haven't seen in 15 years.
Yeah, I'll drop that information on him. Yeah, okay.
But it's been like that. Sometimes it used to be a long time ago. It used to be somebody would come to me and say, "You don't know me, but I need some help. And one of my relatives is in this diner just down the road. Can you go tell him something about, something the family needs to know?" And it turned out to be there were stock certificates in the attic of grandma's old house, that kind of thing, And I walk up to these people. If you don't get chased out of the diner, like a crazy person, with a knife, what are you doing? But I've been very cautious and very restrictive on that for years. But the bottom line is occasionally you really feel like you got to intervene and do this stuff. But it gets wacky. And around Christmas time, let's see, I don't go to malls after about the end of September. Okay, I can't handle the volume of people. I don't go to concerts. I do go to baseball games, but I take precautions with the baseball games.
So you're saying it's not normal to be chased out of the diner with a knife?
Yeah.
Okay. I actually have a funny story. So I don't think my father's listening at this time, and so I'll share this with you. So maybe he is. Oh gosh. So anyway, he had a friend, and he told the story of his friend when we were growing up, and they would. I think he was in like early years of college, and his friend was like this like super genius guy. Like college was nothing. Like he knew more than the professors, and like he was one of those people though he couldn't handle his own intelligence. So he was always doing crazy things like, lighting up a Christmas tree with joints and like having a party and hanging it upside down from the ceiling. And there was this one story where they're in at a diner. And I love diners. I'm just all American that way. I love diners. And they're in a diner and they're just sitting there and chatting. And his friend just starts like, goes into this kind of weird like trance state and starts like moaning and just making really weird, and louder and louder and louder. And they're like, "Dude, what are you doing?" In the middle of this diner. And then he just like grabs a cheeseburger and like slams it on his head and like just starts like going nuts. And like they're young, like, 21-year-old, 19-year-old guys, probably having some drinks and like laughing and going, "What the hell?" at the same time. And I had like drag him out of the diner.
What caused that?
I don't know, but that's high strangeness in the real world. And but it makes me think that, we can only sort of handle as a reality as much as our brain allows us to. So even a super genius like that he had his limitations. Mm-hmm. Heidi, you and I were talking about Them recently. Yeah. Have you guys seen Them on Netflix?
Them?
It's like the best paranormal. It's a series, but it's like a long movie.
It's on Amazon Prime, no?
Oh, Amazon Prime. You're right. Amazon Prime.
I think I have seen the promo, but I haven't had a chance to watch it.
It is genius. Like,
really?
I think it's genius. It's just, and I'm not heavy into watching tons of paranormal or horror films, but it was like the best thing out there. I encourage everybody out there for Paranormal Day, because it's today. Go out there and watch that movie. It's so good. Yeah, I think it was 8 or 10 episodes.
Something like that.
Yeah.
That sounds fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it does.
I won't get laundry done tomorrow, I don't think.
It's horror, like reality mixed with the paranormal.
Yes, it's very psychological. Yeah.
Linda will love that. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's based on history and reality, psychology, and a little bit, we think, of Heidi Hollis's own theory of Hatman, or we think that the writers of the series took her Hatman idea,
Wow.
but what she made a study of and created like sort of like a hypothesis for what.
Yeah. And who hasn't ripped off Shadow People Hatman now?
Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
know what? I mean, I have not heard. I mean, I've heard of Hat Man, but my
Mhm.
my cousin said that she had three different situations where the Hat Man appeared in front of her, like on a road, in front of a car wreck, at a
Mhm.
burning house, and they were all sort of like protecting her from these situations.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
I've started to believe that, oh my God, there is a Hat Man. There's something going on with this phenomenon. It's different, but there's something there.
Why would she think it's protecting?
She thought that each time that she saw him, something bad happened. So she thought it was like a warning rather than taking it as this thing is causing
Oh, he's
these things
causing
to
it.
happen.
He's the one that usually causes the accident, the animosity.
Really?
Oh, people just catch him like, oh, maybe it's
Mhm.
awful what he does. He's terrible. And yeah, some people will tell me, oh, I thought he was a protector or guardian because he didn't scare me, and he was there, and I just assumed. And I think people hope for the best, but then I get like the 100 emails that say he punched his fist into my chest and ripped my soul out. So it's pretty evil.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds
Yeah.
like more of a different view. That, I mean, it's the same scenario, but just two different points of view.
Yeah.
Oh,
It reminds me of Mothman, right?
Yep.
I,
You can look
I
at it two ways.
people look at it like he's just a red flag for something to come. But I don't know. It's kind of like, what's the point of showing up if it's not actually a warning? If you're not there in like to help someone, like the idea of having like a guardian spirit or guardian angel to kind of guide you in one direction or another. If you're just there and then something bad happens, that to me is not a positive entity.
I consider that voyeurism.
yeah, he's a perv.
Good point.
A perv, a masochist or something.
Yeah.
Right. It's just, yeah.
I mean, I've gotten emails in the thousands, and it's horrible what goes on. It rips my heart out when you're sharing that he showed up 3 times. I mean, literally, it just hurt me because it's devastating. It's devastating what happens, and and it's increasing. And he's having a field day with COVID and all of the unemployment and people dying and ill and desperate and hating God for letting this happen. I mean, it's out of control. And yeah, I mean, until you get that email from a 7-year-old that's like, my God, he's going to kill me. They're getting a hold of their parents' cell phone and sending me messages. And I'm like, oh, I mean, I just sit here and just agonize, and it just kills me. But that's it. It's all about overcoming such negativity, though, too, and not letting them get the upper hand. So it's harsh what's going on out there, and I feel for anybody that's experienced something horrible or just frightening out of the paranormal world and not have anybody to vent to. It's so hard, but
Heidi, do you feel like there's anything that you can learn from the situation, and how to protect yourself or someone who's experiencing that situation?
For me, it's all about empowering the individual to be able to know that they can, without a doubt, get rid of these things. So if anything, if he's looking your way, sometimes you got to wonder why that is. And it doesn't always help to find that answer, just to know, to be able to, you can get rid of them. Usually he's attracted to a person because they are so powerful and they are such a bright light. People think, oh, well, I don't believe in God. Maybe this is why. Well, then, yeah, maybe that's why for you. But it seems to be more often than not that these are special people he's going after.
Yeah, Heidi, when was it, like 1999 that you were on Coast to Coast? That, like, when you first talked about it? It was a while ago.
The first time, well, I wrote the book in 97, and I was on his show, I believe it was 01.
01 was, okay.
Yeah, and I stayed, might have been 02, but then I was a regular. But I had, pushed my book out to the world of the paranormal way before it got published. And yeah, it was crazy. And now I've trademarked Shadow People and Hat Man because it's getting so abused out there. and like it's entertaining and it's horrific. So so I had to do that, to take that step, but trying to help in some way.
I was gonna say, well, it's over 20 years.
Yes, over 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
People think I'm a kid, and I'm like, oh my God, I've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
But hoping to make a difference out there. And, now the world knows it's crazy. It's like, oh, just making my parents proud. It's like, oh man, my dad was like, can you change your last name in the books? Anything, it's like, it's like, you got to have a sense of humor being in the paranormal though too. So
Yeah.
I do know how to do that. And it's heavy stuff, but
Well, speaking of sense of humor, looking behind you, I see your cartoons.
my cartoons. Yes, I do a paranormal comic strip called the Outlanders comic. Follow on Instagram. I'm having a blast with it. TheOutlandersComic.com too. Yeah. So Bigfoot, aliens, you name it, ghosts.
Do you have any Bigfoot?
What's that?
Do you have any Bigfoot?
Yeah, I've got my comic strip. He's the main character. His name is Hogwarts. Oh. Yeah, can you see him? He's
oh my God, he's so cute.
Yeah, he's
I
awesome.
love it.
Oh
my gosh.
Yeah, his name is Hog.
Hog.
I'm from Milwaukee. Harley, come on.
He's a big boy.
Well, speaking of sketches, Tiff, you sent some sketches in tonight. Actually, you were at a Bigfoot convention.
I was.
Yeah.
I was at the Ohio Bigfoot Conference. And I think it's been going on for 26, 27 years, something like that, maybe even longer.
Where was it in Ohio?
It was at Salt Fork State Park in Lore City.
Okay.
So, not too far from outside of Columbus, I guess.
Okay.
But I saw some really cool people. I know that Alan probably knows them, but Lyle Blackburn, who has written books on the Boggy Creek Monster, and let's see, Cliff Barrockman from, let's see. Oh my God, that's awesome.
There we go. I just happen to have my sketchbook next to me. Keep on talking. I want to interrupt.
That's fantastic. So Cliff Barrockman, and then James Bobo Fay, who's just, larger than life in Finding Bigfoot.
It's like Boba Fett from Star Wars, but Boba Fay.
Bobo Fay, F-A-Y, yeah. But there were some great speakers, and we had a really good time. And Matt Pruitt was there, who gave a very scientific and just a beautiful presentation that was probably the smartest thing I've heard in a while, and it was amazing. And of course, Lyle killed it too. So it was great to see. It was enjoyable. My whole family went.
I have a question for you ladies have both written books on the paranormal.
I wrote a romance novel about the paranormal.
Oh, that's cool.
Okay.
Well, Cheryl's a writer too.
Okay. I've got about 10. I've got about 20 stage plays, and about 10 of them have paranormal quality, and they've been done. Some of them have been done all over the world, But the goofiness is that. I've got a university that's asked to take my papers when I pass. Okay, and part of the contract was I had to write a memoir. And I've been working on it. I write things as things come up. And the whole chapter about paranormal, to be honest with you, I've been sort of in the closet about it. Mm-hmm. Okay. And Linda said, hey, you can take that chapter and ask their archive librarians. It does not come out. You give them the rest of the memoir before you pass. And after you pass, this one here, this part doesn't come out till after you pass, and that's been kind of a shaky area for me. I guess I hate to say it. I'm sort of in the closet about the paranormal stuff.
So you're saying there's more that we don't know about?
Oh yeah. Oh, there's some goofy stuff out there.
Well, you've got friends in the paranormal world now.
Good.
We'll just wait for you outside of the closet to come and talk about it.
You know where I made peace with it? I lived in a Buddhist monastery for 7 years.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And I was the only way I was able to make peace with it. It was a way I was able to, the meditation processes and things helped me be able to deal. I'm a combat veteran. So I was having difficulty dealing with PTSD issues, things like this. The dead people I shot, that kind of thing. That kind of stuff. And
That's heavy.
I managed it over 7 years. I managed it all. Okay. It took a while. It took a lot of hard work, but we managed it. But growing up in that, like I told you, in the family was there was this clairvoyant stuff. And I've talked to a couple of my cousins. And we were saying, yeah, that happens to us too, And so I tell these weird stories in the memoir. And I've just been very hesitant to put it into print and let them publish it while I'm alive. I'm honest to God. It sounds like I'm okay. Yeah, right. I write books about UFOs, and I'm worried about people calling me crazy, right? So.
So Cheryl, I can see that you're having this conversation in your head a lot.
Oh yeah.
The debate, right? Yeah. I think all of us do to some degree, right? I mean,
that's what I wanted to hear from you all.
Yes. No, you're not alone. That's for sure.
I'm not shy about it at all.
I figured I was in the closet for a long time because I had little kids. They were in Catholic schools. I was going through a divorce. My husband wanted to take everything and take the kids and blah, 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 blah. You go through this whole crazy stage, and you don't want to be that person sometimes. You want to be the person that doesn't have those struggles that other people can't understand. And it's a difficult path. I mean, it sounds like, we've all sort of had our issue and our fair share, but it's so freeing once you actually get to that point. And like last year, I finally decided, I'm just going to say it. What are they going to do? They're not going to do anything.
Well, let be clear for people who may not know Tiffany. So this is who you're talking about.
Yeah, that's one of them. Yeah, there's lots of them. That one was not so bad. Not so bad. I have a sort of a neutral feeling about this.
And this is your sketch too.
Yes. This is
nice. Great art.
Thank you.
This is one of the ETs?
This is one of the ETs. Yeah. Okay. I woke up, there's a picture, and I can't show you which one, but I woke up in a scenario that looked very similar to this one that was an underground base with very strange arched ways. Alan, if you can find that one. Not that one. No.
Oh, then I don't have it.
Oh, you don't?
I'm sorry.
I can send it right now. But there was that first image that you saw was the guy that I sort of awoke to while I was on a stretcher, and I was in this underground, what seemed to be cavern. Yeah. And I don't think that most people are meant to wake up and see that. And I looked up, and I was so curious, and I said, "Where am I?" And he goes, "You're supposed to be asleep. That's it."
Wow.
Yeah. So when you wake up in a situation like that, and I didn't have fear. I did not have fear. I had just a little bit of curiosity, and then back out, zero consciousness.
It looks like an abandoned subway tunnel, right?
Well, from what I remember, it looked like it was more honed out, like drilled out. And the things on the wall in this image, this is an image that I found. That's the only thing that I could find that's similar to it. But it's very, very close. Very close.
Wow.
Just strange, really long underground tunnels. And they just were cavernous.
Yeah, I don't see tracks, right? So there's
no. This is just utility services along the wall. So.
Yeah. This is just an image that I took from out in the web somewhere, but it's the only thing that I could find that was similar to my experience.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, okay. I can't talk to the Grace. My experience has been principally with reptilians.
I've had that.
Okay. And the funny thing is, you get on the groups and social media and you always see all this art, these muscular, ugly looking reptilians. And I'm sorry, my relationship there is gentle as
mine's different.
Any Catholic nun I ever met that didn't have a steel ruler, but no, they're gentle as hell and very soft features and smart as a whip. I mean, IQ off the scale has been my experience, and it's a strange relationship. It really is, and it's been going on a good number of years.
Isn't it fair to say though that if there are multiple species out there, that maybe we're interacting with different species, so or even species that look similar, right? So one can describe,
or even one from another, maybe different personality.
Oh, sure, just like humans, right?
Yeah.
And maybe it seems to me that, well, Ray Hernandez has talked to us about this a lot in the Free organization and the research that they did, that most experiencers over time, about like 85%, change their experience and report it as a positive experience, where it may have started as something that they perceived as negative. But I was talking to Kathleen Martin, and there's that sort of survivor's trauma, like maybe like a Munchausen syndrome, right? Where like you kind of reconceptualize it to make it something that's okay. So how do we know which one it is? It's so tricky. It's so slippery.
I agree with that statement. 100%.
I would not disagree with it. I early on, I would say early in my experiences with it, I'd wake up feeling like I'd been run through the ringer, and then the bruises and black and blue marks showed up over 2 or 3 days, that kind of thing. But that ended, and it became more of a relationship rather than being part of somebody's medical examination or tag or release or whatever you want to call it. It became a long-term friendship and relationship. And again, that's one of those ones I don't want to write about in the book. I will be writing about it, but it's hard to explain because only a handful of people can talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
I have to say, I haven't been abducted, but I've had interactions with positive and negative reptilians. But the negative ones were people parading around to be people that weren't, and proved themselves to not be quite human. And then the positive reptilian, just amazing, but different looking than the more negative one. So
that cloaking aspect, parading around looking like normal people, they put like they project a glamour, so to speak. And the people who notice it are the people who are on certain type of antipsychotic drugs. They seem to be able to see through it. And then 4 to 5 year olds are really of an innocent mindset. So they'd be standing there in the supermarket, and just the reptilian is standing there in the supermarket line. The kid, hey mom, look, a dinosaur, and it's that kind of thing. It's
stories out there are amazing.
There's a lot of them out there.
I have a story for you since you're talking about dinosaurs. So my daughter was very, very young when she was fluently speaking. When she was about 3 years old, she acted a little fearful, and I said, "What's the matter?" And I kept noticing this strange behavior. She'd looking up at the ceiling, and just would like hunker down. And I'm like, what's going on? And she said, I don't like the little things. And I said, the little things, what are the little things? And I said, what do they look like? And she says, well, there's one there, one there, one there, one there. And they're like little bubbles, and they're like bubbles of light. And I was like, okay, well, what are they doing? And she said, well, they sometimes get on my skin. And I said, well, why do they hurt? And she's like, no. I said, well, what are they doing? She goes, you see these, mommy? These are my veins. This is 3-year-old.
Wow.
These are my veins. And I said, okay. She goes, they go inside. That's where my blood is. And they check my blood. And I said, okay. Do they do that to mommy? And she says, no, mommy, they already have yours. And
Oh,
so from that point, I mean, it really flipped a switch inside of me. I was like, I'm losing it. I'm losing it. And my daughter's losing it. And we're losing it together. And I didn't know how to protect my daughter from this because I absolutely believed her. I've watched her follow these things. I watched her follow them with her eyes and sort of jump back for a moment and pull back. And, you know, although I could not see it, I could tell that there was a truth there. And what do you do with that? You got to, you know, process it and try to help her understand that it's not just a bad thing. So later, she kept saying that the dinosaurs were coming in her room. And I'm like, the dinosaurs, what in the world is she talking about? And what I couldn't figure out was if she was seeing some type of maybe a reptilian in her room, or was it something that was trying to portray itself as something that would be familiar and happy for her because her favorite animal were dinosaurs. She wouldn't be afraid to see a dinosaur in her room. So there's this dichotomy. I don't know which one to ever believe, but I feel like they're blending together on some level. Like some level, it really doesn't matter which one it specifically is. There's something special about what's going on and all of these different experiences that we're all having. It's unique, but it's not really something that's foreign. We're just sort of waking back up to it. It's something that connects us through humanity, through eons. And we're just now reconnecting with that energy source and those powers, if you will.
I have to share something. So a lot of people that I get put into the category of being more paranormal versus the alien stuff. But the alien stuff is what really got me into the paranormal, even though I was raised in a haunted house. So the more positive alien beings that I had interaction with in college with my college roommate are the beings that informed me about the whole shadow people, Hat Man phenomenon, and the warning about them and the warning about some of these abducting type of beings and how they hide who they are to deceive. And so you let your guard down, much like shadow people. But just to put that out there, it's so that they told me, these different things to be protective, be ready, because there's a reason why they hide, and like this thing is coming, and so a lot of people think I came up with the shadow people, Hat Man definitions on my own, but it was literally alien interaction with these beings that just blew my mind, and so it was quite a feat getting out there to the world and trying to present, coming from the whole alien aspect into what seemed paranormal, though they were interconnected. So it's all this in the paranormal is connected, right?
Yeah, no, I think it is, right? Because the supernatural is really just the unexplained natural.
Yeah. And it's neat to know that we can always grow and explore and pull stuff together and help each other out with these things. And I think the biggest problem in probably in the field since I started, it's like I think we need to work more together. Totally. Because it is connected. But I remember being, back in the day, the ghost hunters saying, "Oh, those wacky UFO people," and UFO people saying those wacky, ghost people. I'm like, come on, people, let's get it together. We should be further along, but we're so busy with our ego and fighting, and it's silly. I mean, there's a way to get along.
You know, I was at the Arkansas UFO conference.
My
and
favorite. That's
Was
the one
it the Ozark or
Yeah.
Ozark, yeah.
yes?
I go to
And-
that all the time. I love it.
Ray Hernandez was there.
Uh-huh.
And him and I parked ourselves out by where they were selling pieces of pie and cake and coffee and that kind of thing. We parked
best
ourselves
place.
at a little rounder, and we sat there and got this really deep conversation going. We were talking about, you know, the hell with all these stovepipes. It's all one phenomena kind of talk. And we were so intense on the conversation. What we did not realize was people were pulling up their chairs around us and listening to the two of us have this what I'm going to call a monastic argument. You know, it was a very heavy discussion on it. But the whole bottom line to the whole thing is it's all one phenomena.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just going to add this, Heidi, here. So Alper says, when jinn switch, you shadow people there. Basically, I think what he's saying is that the jinn are shadow people.
You know, I put out Shadow People such a long time ago, and I know there's an author that came forward and said, oh, they're jinn. You know, I like to be able to have two different categories, good, bad. It's like we can put titles on things, and it's like, oh, it fits over here. It's like, you know, who's on my side and who isn't. That's what I want to know. So it's like,
True.
there's so many things that we can say and pick apart and all these different things, but does it really matter in the end? Is, you know, do we want them to be our friend or not?
Yes, like I can choose to believe that Baby Yoda is real.
There you are. Oh, I love that. That's awesome.
Because it makes me feel good.
We have him in our house too. He's so cute. We love him.
But yeah, so sorry. He's got a mind of his own. We when we first got this little Baby Yoda, it was a gift my wife got me for Christmas, which was one of the best gifts. And like we were like, it's supposed to be motion activated, right? But like we were in another room and this thing is going off and we're like, what the heck is happening here? Yeah.
Okay. He's still talking in the background.
And it's not supposed to be motion activated over here. Like you have to like put your hand over it like that.
Yeah.
So maybe there's something, you know, like an SLS meter, you know, picking up some kind of entity in a room. Yeah.
Yes. And maybe you have a flare and you don't know it.
Oh God. Yeah. Well, you know, our cat, I mean, anyone who has a cat, they're staring at things and it's like, there's nothing there. Like sometimes she'll act as if there's like a mouse or something in the kitchen, but there's zero evidence. Like no droppings. We never hear anything. And we've had mice before, right? Like I'm 99.9% sure there is not a mouse. And she'll just be in there like
hunting.
Yeah, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the kitchen. It could just be some, and she's like that, just staring, and there's nothing there.
I've got a funny story about cameras. So when I'm recently remarried, when I moved in with my current husband Brent Sipley, I actually had so much activity that I ended up using some of his Bigfoot hunting equipment, different motion sensor cameras with night vision and all this stuff. So I had 4 cameras in my bedroom and they were set up to face where all the action is, right? Not that kind of action, but you know, supernatural action. So the only thing that I could actually catch were orbs flying around the room. And there were times where, I mean, it would look like a freaking tornado is going off. And then other times where you just see a really big one zip through. And, you know, during the day, at night, I could catch them, the strangest things happening. But most of the time, it was just orbs. But even the cats and the dogs who would sleep at the bottom of the bed would get up when they see this. They get up and start circling or looking in the corner or looking wherever it went or looking where it came from. And I mean, 3 a.m., the cats and dogs just suddenly wake up and this thing is happening. What is it? I know it's not little butterflies flying around my room.
Mhm.
So I think that there's something weird about your pets that they know, they sense it. And I pay attention to my animals. I mean, I live out in the woods. It's
Yeah.
probably going to be a coyote or a bear or something, but could be something else. I listen to them though. I have learned that.
Well, Tiffany, you were both. Was it you and your whole family were away at the conference?
Yes.
So, what was your takeaway? What's the vibe right now in the Bigfoot community?
Well, I love the idea of bringing some woo-woo to their world and throwing them off a little bit. But, they are very much flesh and blood creatures.
Mhm.
Maybe they're a missing link, an ancient hominid, great ape of North America, whatever. But there's been sightings of these different species of them almost throughout the world. So, I have had to open my range of beliefs from not just UFOs, aliens, ghosts, the demonic, angelic. Now I have to encompass Bigfoot, Chupacabra, Mothman, and Loch Ness monster. There's so many things, that are, being thrust in my face when it comes to Bigfoot. There's a whole slew of all other cryptids that I have to discuss now, but some very good presentations. It's really eye-opening when it comes down to hearing about the infrasound that they can emit, which is if you've been around an elephant or a lion, when a male lion roars, you could be 5 miles away 2 miles away, and you can hear that. Well, when you're close, it jars your system.
Sure.
I mean, it really, we've been using infrasound to torture and repel whale wars and all this other stuff. We know it happens. So if Bigfoot's out there and these things are happening, I think it's an amazing prospect. So I'm hoping they find I hate saying a body because I don't want it to die, but I think that that's the only way that people will accept it. Just like aliens on the White House lawn. That's what they're waiting for. And I don't think it's going to happen like that either.
Meanwhile, disclosure is going on right now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. I don't trust the government to suddenly have a heart and tell us the truth. I'm sorry, but I've had military abductions. I think I've shared on here before, and family ties to some of the BS that they pull. And I just don't buy that. There's so many people that I know that have lost their jobs, their families, their friends, and suicidal. And now you're going to just come clean like, look, aren't we good guys? No, you're not. You've really done some horrible things holding this from society. For what? We can't handle it? Well, who runs the government? People. They're handling it.
Well, I think their hands are so dirty now.
Thank you.
And what we mentioned earlier on Paranormal Now tonight, actually, the idea that SpaceX and private space companies are going out there, right? SpaceX was just given a contract, and I think Greg, who's listening or watching now, had mentioned that Jeff Bezos is protesting the fact that SpaceX won that contract, but it's a private company getting involved here, right? And they're going to have to get access to NASA's information. They need all that data to understand how to get to the moon and back. And, because their spaceship is supposed to do that. And that's the same spaceship technology. It's the Spaceship 15 is like the latest model that's going to be tested hopefully in the next day or so. That's going to take them to Mars and back. I think the government is passing the buck. I think they want private enterprise to do the releasing for them, so that way they can go, oh, really? What? Wow, we're so surprised, And then they weren't the liars, they weren't, and that's how you can do disclosure without showing the fact that you've, been a naughty entity for some time.
Alan, back last year, just before we all got locked down, I was being massaged and told that well, we're probably going to have government hearings in the next, and of course we didn't know we were going to get locked down. Okay.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And there was really a big push coming from, or we're going to call the deep intelligence state, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, these two people were telling me this, and I said, okay, they're on the inside track. I said, fine. I said, I heard Rubio's been trying to get a bill put in. He did eventually, to get the release on this stuff. And I said, so why are you talking to me? He said, well, you and your wife are the only two people that ever wrote anything about statistical information on this. I mean, not even Blue Book did what you guys did.
Sure.
And I said, so you want the two gay ladies to come and testify before Congress about UFO sightings and shape statistics and all the stuff that we know that you don't know? And it said, yeah, that's what's being talked about. And I said, you know what this is going to come down to when they do really try to do this reveal? It won't be us. It'll be a bunch of swaggering pilots, Navy pilots, and it's going to be a whole bunch of defense, some branch of defense intelligence spooks. And are we supposed to believe the spies? Come on, guys,
I would much rather see the two gay ladies with their big pink book show up. And tell
That's
it
why
like
we made
is.
it pink. That's why we make it pink. You can flag in an aircraft with it.
Yeah. And it's pink. And for those who haven't seen it yet, it's like pink.
I just looked at it. It's very pink.
Yeah.
And we've been threatening for a year. We called it Project Pink Book, and nobody believed us.
I love it.
That's brilliant. I love that. Yeah.
Well, the idea was if we were going to testify before Congress, I wanted to be able to sit there and look up at a congressman or a senator and have him have to deal with this bright pink book.
That's awesome.
Well, it's also, and it stands out on the shelf too, right? I mean, that's like,
I think I have a pink book. It's called Good Girl's Guide to Bad Girl Sex from like the 90s.
Yeah, well, after you read Linda's preface in this book, you're going to say this is the UFO book of bad girls.
Yes, that sounds fantastic.
She really
Sign me up.
She never does these shows, okay, and she never does the conventions. Okay, and people always ask her why, and she explains it in the preface. I mean, the only show she's been on is Commander Cobra. He invited her on, okay, and she is Miss Machine Gun from the Hip, and he was not expecting that, Yeah. I think the proper term these days is unfiltered. And she shoots from the hip. So it's going to be interesting. So, this book that we just released should be available on Amazon within the week, unless they sit on it for 15 days like they did the last one. We rattled Amazon when we published the first book. They weren't expecting it. And but what's coming out next is we're doing 50 individual state books with the specific specs for each state. So I got 50 books here in the hopper, in the electronic hopper, that we're going to be starting to push out. And it's somewhere on the order of 4 or 5 a month over the next year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so what's going to be is about 80 books altogether by the time we're done with the shapes. So we're going to have the largest collection of UFO research compiled and statistic-sized UFO data ever published in human history.
I'm sorry, Cheryl. I apologize for laughing. My wife is right over there, bobbing her head and dancing to music for no reason.
It's okay. But the big deal with this whole thing is that we're going to put so damn many books out there that they won't be able to ignore this topic.
Though, and I think that Amazon misunderstood, or I think most people don't get it. There are so many ufological geeks out there. Like, they want that data. They want to read it. Like, that's good reading material for them.
Did you want to know what makes me upset, though? I walk into Barnes & Noble last week trying to find a good UFO book, and there were probably 15 books on the shelf.
Okay, you're lucky.
I was so upset. I'm like, what the heck is wrong with these people? This is huge.
Yeah.
And it's just being totally ignored. I could not believe it. So Amazon is the way to go. Unfortunately, I wish that my bookstore down the street had more options, but it's just
Amazon was
there.
selected. My wife is a career librarian. She used to be the head librarian for the Environmental Protection Agency.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And her attitude when we did this is, why are we going to one of these other big publishers? It'll take 3 years to get our book out. Okay, we were not going to do that. And she says, we're going to do this self-published. We're going to do it the way we want to do it. And we're going to do it through Amazon. Why Amazon? Because it's a worldwide distributor. The people who in Europe who bought the first 2017 book, they made the order. They had it in 2 days because it wasn't coming from here. It was a Knox center over in Europe, someplace that printed it out. Okay, I know there's 2 copies in the Vatican Library. Okay, that kind of thing. So it was a worldwide distributor. What's not to like?
Yeah, I have to tell you, when I wrote my first book in '97, it took me 2 months to write it, 4 years to get it published.
Thank you.
I'd sent it around because back then the only publishers were other authors in the paranormal. So I'd sent it to all of these people. So I think Art Bell even had a copy. I don't know. Everybody had a copy of this book before I got it published. It took a long time. And it ended up being a print on demand. It was brand new to do print on demand back then. So it got published in 2001. But now, I swear to you, I've had traditionally published books and this is my one book on Hatman. And it's fine. I mean, I had it self-published. I did it myself. And it's like, put out 2 whole phenomena out there to the world doing self-publishing, because it does take a long time. I don't recommend it for new authors to go traditional. To put it out there, you've got everything you need with KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing, with Amazon.
Yeah, Tiffany, I mean, you have such a fascinating story. Have you ever considered writing about it?
For the longest time, I didn't want anything written down because I didn't want it used against me. And I was very fearful of that.
Smart lady.
Yes, I was extremely cautious. I was extremely fearful. I had seen firsthand how some divorces go down, and I didn't want to sacrifice, being able to have my children around me because of some nasty judge. So I wanted to prevent and sanitize anything until I knew that I was safe. And I felt safe this year. It was the first time I felt safe. So at this point, I may be able to start writing, but unfortunately, I have Lyme disease and I had Rocky Mountain spotted fever this year, and I had it together. And from that point on, I mean, many people don't even survive the Rocky Mountain spotted fever, first of all, but I was so traumatized that the entire year I've been trying to recover. And with the Lyme disease, it's like chronic. It's just, the symptoms are brain fog and lack of concentration and migraines and nausea and low-grade fevers. And it just keeps going. And it's like, you can't really be creative, and you can't create, and you can't maintain thoughts, for long. It's very difficult. I mean, even doing the shows is becoming a challenge. And
You sound brilliant.
Well, thank you, because I don't feel it these days. Yeah. But, I do think that it's important to share, because I do know that my daughters are involved. My aunts are involved, my mom, and I can't let it go. And I want them to know the truth of these situations and let them have a record and be able to say, well, my aunt or my cousin or my grandmother said these things, and this was from her heart. This was the truth as she knew it. Yeah. And she was finally able to say it. So yes, I think that at some point I will be able to do that. Hopefully I'll be able to get this brain fog and concentration issue and the migraines under control, and be able to get to a point where I can be creative again. So yeah.
But I agree with Heidi. I mean, you always come off highly intelligent, and I mean, knowing your history with work too, I mean, it seems like you've always been a very competent person.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
But I get the struggle. Wasn't it like around October? Like it really hit.
It hit hard. I was really ill at the end of beginning of July, and the symptoms really just continued on, and I didn't know that I was going to be facing that kind of struggle. But I'm starting to make lists because I can't even walk into the pantry some days, and I'm like, what was I going in there for? Oh yeah, cereal. But day by day, hopefully it'll get better.
Yeah, I've always been a list person though. Like, if I don't write it down, oh my gosh. I go to the grocery store, I'm like, what did I come here? A list of 5 items, I'll remember 2.
There you go. Yeah. Sometimes I just walk in circles thinking, I know I meant to do something. It just is what it is day to day.
Well, maybe you are meant to do something, right? You're sharing your story and your experience and
yellow stickies.
Yellow
stickies.
Stickies. Yeah.
Yes. That's what Peter Robbins told me the other day. Peter Robbins said, I have sticky notes and I have notebooks and I have notepads and I have them all over the place. Yeah. Said with a pen beside each one. Perfect.
We bought ourselves a little whiteboard to go on the fridge so we can write reminder notes. It turns out that we just write notes to each other instead, which is much more fun than lists. So.
Love you, and cereal.
Right. And I just want to let everyone know tonight that Eric Brager, the director of operations on KGRA Radio, was doing us a favor and offered to stream this on KGRA's website.
Oh, awesome.
Tonight. Yeah, so we're hitting a much wider audience than we would otherwise. So that was really nice of him to do. Yeah, so thank you, Eric.
It's really kind. That's awesome.
Yeah. So on Paranormal Day, are we supposed to get each other gifts? Is that going to be like a thing one day?
I got a gift for Paranormal Day.
Nice. All right. So that's how you get remembered. You wear hats like that.
He's got the best hat, and the next his I call him the dynamic duo. Him and Ken Gerhard have the very similar hats, and they're both Bigfoot and cryptid guys. So I got to hang with Lyle this weekend, and he is a doll. So we had a great time.
Awesome.
But he gave me that lovely picture signed and autographed because I'm a big nerd. I try to get more signatures from the Bigfoot guys than my husband can, and it drives him nuts.
That's awesome. Everybody has a hobby, right?
Exactly.
That's my hobby.
Yes, and my husband and I were in a silent not a silent auction. It was an auction for different Bigfoot items at the conference, and I outbid everybody for 3 items, but my husband and I were both going. We were like doing it against each other, and we didn't know it at first. I was like,
that's hilarious.
So yeah, we got a few little cool gifts, which is awesome. Good stuff. So.
How do we all feel about getting back to in-person conferences?
I love it.
Yeah.
It was very well organized. We had a great time.
Yeah.
People were very respectful. It was actually very well done. A lot smaller numbers. I think there were about maybe 250 people, whereas a lot of times they can get up into like the 5,000 range. But you know what? It makes it very personable. I think a lot of people were able to visit with these icons and sit down and have a chat and tell their stories, which I think is really important. And the events like Cheryl mentioned, going to the Ozark UFO conference, that's a fantastic one too, because, it's so comfortable. Everybody in there just gets really cozy. And I think that we can do it. I think we're smart enough to be able to do it properly.
I think so too. I mean, I think I've already had my second Pfizer shot. And so I'm already past that, like the 2 weeks after the second shot. So I'm like, all right, let's go, people, let's get together. But then you have to be like, remember, I could be a carrier. I could pass it on to someone else who hasn't had a vaccine yet and that sort of thing.
You can still catch it.
And you could still catch it, but the idea, right, is that even if you catch it, like you should be able to, or at least a 90% chance, fight it off. I don't know.
140 people died that were vaccinated. Scary. But
Well, they were. I heard on the news about India having a major problem. Something like they had another 400,000 new cases in the past few weeks, and that a lot of them are dying from it. So I don't know the different strains throughout the world, how quickly the virus changes, mutates.
Yeah.
That's a scary thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
these are the vaccinated ones that died here in this country. And
Yeah,
I was
but it's like 0.007 like that. It's a very tiny number.
Yeah, it is. But I can't imagine the person that got their Pfizer shot thinking they're okay, and then they got sick and passed from it. I mean, I'm in the medical field, and it just breaks my heart. I've lost a lot of colleagues, and I just can't imagine,
I think there is that emotional aspect to it as well.
Yeah.
It's like we've been through so much, and like even if statistically it is super, super low, it's kind of like, are we ready to really do that emotionally and see others die? It's tough. I was around with somebody recently who got their vaccine and they like took their mask off, and I was like, and we both have our vaccines, right? So it should be fine. But I was just like, whoa, it just felt strange.
In New York, are they mandating masks everywhere?
Well, yes.
No, they just well, see,
depends.
You could be you could be in a restaurant, and it's been like this since like October or November, Cheryl. You can be in a restaurant and have like 6 feet apart distance and not wear a mask. And
our diners around here have big plexiglasses between the booths, so you can you can take your mask off while in the booth while you're eating, no problem. So,
right,
we are a lot more lax down here. I think we're living on the thought that if you get it and you survive, good job.
Well, some people talk about the after effect. First shot, my arm ached for a day or two. Second shot, I was down for 4 days. In fact, my spouse came home from getting groceries and found me on the floor in the bathroom the third day, covered up with towels because I didn't have enough strength to get back into the bedroom. It hit me extremely hard. But we explained it to my doctor, and he says, well, you had a really solid immune response. I said, oh, good. Okay.
Well, that's what it is, right? Technically, it's an immune response. And just because people have lower immune responses doesn't mean it's actually not working. My understanding is that it just depends. You might have actually been exposed to a COVID virus, perhaps not COVID-19. So your body has already been primed a little bit, so that Heidi, maybe I'm wrong, so that when you get the vaccine, or at least the second vaccine, it's like your body reacts more quickly because it's already had some exposure to a COVID type virus. Have you heard that?
Do you want to? I have a really scary story to tell you. So back in 2003, I was working at a NATO base on the island of Crete called Namfi. And it was a missile launching installation. I acquired this virus. They really didn't know what it was. They eventually said it was probably either SARS-CoV or MERS-CoV. So there were 12 people on the island that got it, and me. The others 12 were German tourists. Everybody died except me. I was in the hospital for 9 days. I went down to 94 pounds. And they called my mom on the 8th day and said, you need to figure out how you're going to get her body back. Everybody else is dead. My mom's like, okay, you can fly her to Athens. I'll pay for her private flight. We'll get her up to see some other doctors. And they said she's restricted to the island. She will be dead very soon. She's not going anywhere. And so my mom luckily had a travel doctor prescribe me this long list of pharmaceuticals. They overnighted it to the base, and they pretty much, the people I lived with at the time, one of them was the assistant to the commanding officer on base, and he said they had a very good relationship with the owner of the hospital, and it was a private hospital, and they said she wants to die at home, and they let me sign myself off to die at home, and had to be staying on the island, couldn't leave, couldn't be flown anywhere. So I immediately take the pills, sign myself out of the hospital, get to the house, and over a matter of about 2 weeks, I ended up getting to the point where I was able to pretty much take a really quick flight back to the States and had immediate surgery. I ended up having an entire like hole blown out in my throat that had to be reconstructed, and I had to have adenoids removed and all this other stuff. But while I was there in the hospital, in this private hospital in Greece, there were nights where I would be taken from my bed, and I was taken downstairs into what looked like this 1950s, 1960s style sort of a room down in the basement. And I had hoses shoved down my throat. I had blood and stuff coming out of the hose. It was being suctioned out. This is in the middle of the night. This is not normal. This is not something that I would have ever had any idea that anybody would ever do. I felt like I was literally being killed. I mean, I felt like they were trying to kill me. And this happened multiple nights. And I told my mom on the phone, I told her, I was like, they're doing something to me. They're doing something to me. And, you know, the father of the family that I was with, he said, you know, that I don't know why they're, you know, they would ask what was going on. They said, she's doing, something's happening at night. And they're like, no, we're not doing anything. So what I'm thinking is, I'm the only one that survived. What was going on down in that basement or whatever, wherever I was taken? Was I taken by regular doctors, or was this kind of an interception or an intervention by somebody else, like ETs maybe? I don't know.
There's been a lot of ET interventions.
I was supposed to be dead. I was supposed to die. They fully expected that would happen. I was just, you know, one of the group, and we were completely isolated. We were, you know, in isolations.
Well,
but I did survive.
I'm so sorry you had to suffer through that, Tiffany. I mean, that's crazy.
It took a very long time to recover.
You know,
but I'm relating it to now, like you said, we're talking about possible strains of COVID. Mm-hmm. What I had was some kind of strain of COVID back in 2003, and it just about killed me. And there were respiratory issues, and there were all this other things. Mm-hmm. And it scares the living daylights out of me, because I do feel this connection. This has happened before. This is not the first time we've had these COVID outbreaks. Yeah. It's just not been publicized this heavily.
Uh-oh.
Yep. Tiff, we lost you. Yep. That's a definite frozen. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. I was going to see if she can get back in here.
I find that suspicious. She was explaining something to us.
Yeah, because I was just going to say that it didn't occur to me until we started talking about it. I know certain videos, not necessarily live streams, but if you upload a video and you talk about COVID, YouTube will flag your video, and remove it.
Facebook flags your posts, and it's crazy.
Right, which is like, it's like we're not even speaking of it in like some ultra conspiratorial way, right? We're just having a conversation of people who are navigating this strange time, and yet just using that word could get a YouTube channel flagged. It's crazy.
what was weird, India, the prime minister there was able to get down all criticism of the way they're handling COVID off from Twitter. Isn't that crazy? I was like, oh, so any kind of criticism. I mean, talk about like, I couldn't believe that Twitter agreed. I mean, that's just nuts.
Don't get me started on Twitter.
Twitter
is like one of the most toxic places on the planet. And
but can I bring a point? Oh, go ahead.
Sure.
Finish,
No,
finish your thought.
No, I mean, that's pretty much it. There's positive and negatives, but I'm very careful about how much time I spend on Twitter and Facebook.
Have you found a certain amount of like UFOs? Have you found a certain amount of UFOs, ETs, of censorship? Podcasts, I can get away with being on a podcast all day long, no problem, and talk some pretty heavy stuff as far as like my data and things like this. Get on a commercial radio station, and their station tries to. Suddenly the line goes dead, and the station spends 10 minutes trying to reconnect to me, and it's like my number doesn't exist. You know, and I'm not talking about a cell phone. I'm talking on a hard line. You know, and this one reporter I was working with on a Fox station about 3 months ago says, "Does this happen to you a lot?" And I said, "Yeah, welcome to my world."
Yeah.
You know, it happens to me much more than it should.
Yeah.
Yes, it's not uncommon. There are sometimes certain topics that come up on the show that it's like all of a sudden you get static, you get someone lost audio, and you know, you wonder how much of it is coincidence and how much of it is some kind of interference. Yeah, my wife and I used to have this kind of experience with certain phone calls, and we used to have in an old apartment building above us, there was this person, and all we would ever hear is kind of like the occasional, almost like electrical computer beeping sounds and like strange stuff. So I just always imagined that this was like a hacker up there, and you know, so when you're making phone calls, like weird things would happen, right? And then one day, there's a black helicopter, a silent helicopter that flies down to we're on the 4th floor and the person's on the 5th floor, to this level in our windows with a light shining in.
Oh.
Now I missed this because I was at work, but I got a text message real fast from my wife, and then there were people, presumably CIA, FBI, I don't know, going up the fire escape, and something happened up there, and that person was never seen again.
Oh, wow.
So yes,
they got hired.
and leading up to that, when we would leave our apartment, there was for some time someone in a car, and with a camera, like right out of a movie, right? Like you would see them with the camera sometimes, and you're like, what is this person on the corner doing? What are they documenting? And then it led up to this event, and you know, so when there's smoke, there probably is fire. So if you get that feeling like someone's listening in on you, there probably are.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example of it. 2003, I was trying to work with the Farsight Institute. They're a remote viewing organization, Dr. Brown's organization. And they kept trying to do an event in New York City where the hotel rates are $300-$400 a night. You know, conference rooms are dreadfully expensive. And I got talking with them. And they said they were having very big cost problems with trying to do it. And I said, look, if you're willing to do this in upstate New York, I can get you hotel rates at $45-$50 a night. And I'm the administrator of a small monastery. I'll give you my place. I'll rent the church tables to host the class. You know, I just get to go to the class free, and so does the other monk, you know.
Yeah.
And they said, sure, no problem. Okay. Well, the instructor was from out in the Midwest, and she shipped some materials to my house. From that day forward, for about 8 months, I had the proverbial car out in front of the house, and somebody out there writing in a note in a logbook. Remote viewing.
Yes. Yep. So Tiffany, Suspiciously, your internet did go out.
Yes. Yeah, I had to turn it off and turn it back on again multiple times.
Wow.
It's not unusual.
We're just having that.
It's not. I mean, it sounds crazy. It's really not that unusual for things like that to happen when you start talking government conspiracy,
Yeah.
medical conspiracy. Sorry, I should have kept my mouth shut.
Yeah. Well, selfishly, I have to say, the reason I was thinking about the whole COVID and being in group gatherings is because I may be speaking at a event in New York, a UFO paranormal related thing, small scale, but it was the first time I would ever be doing something like this, and it would be in July, and by then most people would have vaccines. But I was like, that would be strange, I think, to be in a room without a mask, and speaking to all these people. So the three of you having more experience with that, is that something you would be comfortable with doing?
I was very comfortable. I think everyone was very respectful. And we all know that it's sort of a treasure to be able to do this. And so we were wearing masks most of the time. We took masks off for some pictures and things like that. But everybody was very socially aware and, Perel stations all over the place and just, cautious. So
Yeah.
I felt it was a blessing that we were able to do this. And I would recommend definitely opening the idea up and seeing how many people would be willing to show. That would be awesome.
As a speaker, would you be comfortable though being maskless and speaking to a crowd like that?
I would.
Yeah.
I've recently done a couple of TV shows and couldn't wear the mask, and it was interesting to see how they did all this. So it was testing 3 times a week, everything being sanitized, 6 feet apart. I was nervous, of course, taking off the mask at first, but then I was like, okay. I felt okay about it. But as I have another show I got to go and film for, they're dropping some of these precautions. And now I'm a little bit worried because I got to go to Los Angeles for it. And I'm like, I said, okay, so what's the protocol? It's like, oh, well, we don't have to do this part anymore. We don't have to test everybody. And, this. And I'm like, oh, gosh. So,
but you still have the option to wear your mask and use your precautions.
Not on camera.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't think anybody's going to be coughing and spitting in your direction. If they do, just jack them in the jaw.
Well, yeah, it's a little scary. It's a little
No, I totally understand that. Yeah. But if anybody's spitting in your direction anyway, I think you have the right to jack them in the jaw.
You know what? That's right. No. That's right. Corporal punishment.
I think the biggest concern I have about meeting in person with these conferences right now, and we still have a very large percentage of people who have not been inoculated.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
New York State has not completely lifted the ban. Linda and I were supposed to host a conference a year ago, September. Okay. And the organization that we have the contract with, we talked it out on the phone. It says, we can't really gather even with social distancing, putting everybody, 6 seats apart in the auditorium. Yeah. It's still a big risk. Now, will it be that way this coming September? Maybe not. We don't know. But I'm plugged into. I was a member of the local clergy council here in town, and the feedback I'm getting is they're still not really loosening up very much on public gatherings, and for good reason. We don't have enough inoculations yet, So, camera crews, I'm okay with. They're doing the testing, that kind of thing. I got a couple of those situations coming up myself, so I'm kind of okay with that. And I've been inoculated. I'm not really sweating the load that much for the camera crew, but I am sweating the idea of going and being part of a conference in person. Everything I'm doing right now is virtual. virtual conferences.
Right. Yeah. So we should probably wrap it up. We're well over an hour at this point, but it's been so awesome. I've really enjoyed chatting with you guys. But Heidi, you mentioned earlier, how the community should kind of, come together, all these disparate, areas. And I think tonight's like a good example of different types of people with different interests and that sort of thing coming together. Cheryl is Wiccan, Buddhist / pagan. I don't know, but how would you describe yourself, Cheryl?
A mystic.
Okay.
Mystic.
Yeah.
I these days I don't even associate with the sex. I just say, hey, I've been trained as a mystic over the years, and it's bigger than just one denomination.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and then Heidi, you're Christian, but you're non-denominational as well.
Mm-hmm.
And myself, I'm much more leaning towards agnostic, but I'm coming to understand that I've been using that word wrong, because I don't believe in a singular consciousness creator at all, and I don't think that's. But I don't rule it out. So I'm not even sure what I am anymore, other than just spiritual.
You're a nice guy.
Thanks, Heidi. So, I used to joke around and say I was agnostic, spiritual, and part-time atheist. The part-time atheist is always true, I think. I think we all have those moments of where it's just like, maybe I'm wrong, and I think that's kind of healthy. I remember Bill Moyer on like PBS, he would do all these series on spirituality, and that was like, and he was Baptist, I think. And that was like a big part of his faith was just being like, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but this is what I believe. Tiff, what about yourself?
I had this conversation with my daughters today in the car as we were driving back from the Bigfoot conference. And they were trying to explain why they didn't believe a lot of the stories in the Bible. And I tried to explain to them my view that I was raised Catholic. I had a lot of questions. I asked so many hard questions as a teenager in Catholic school and with nuns and priests. I asked so many questions that they would stop calling on me and stop talking to me because I had too many hard questions that they couldn't answer. And it turned me against religion to some degree. But once I started having my conscious experiences with the different entities and different ETs and different beings, I decided I had to reevaluate my faith. And all of these stories just came slamming back into my head and into my heart and thinking, wow, why didn't I think of it this way? The Immaculate Conception, it's the same thing as in vitro fertilization. There's so many things that we have sort of poo-pooed throughout the years, but now we can do these things. Now these things are being done on the regular, and they make more sense to me now if I look at it through a perspective of higher beings interfering with our little bitty human DNA. And I think that has changed my view, because the books were written, the Torah, the Quran, the Bible, all of these different books were written to explain mystical things that we could not really understand as mere humans. And I think it's just amazing the way that my faith has changed throughout the years and adjusted to my new life. Hopefully I could pass that on to my girls.
Well, for me, the paranormal community at large is an awesome community. There is a little bit of infighting here and there and that sort of thing, but for the most part, I think you're predisposed to having an open mind. It just goes with the territory. I mean, how can you possibly judge another human being for being different when you're sitting there chasing ghosts? It's like, it just doesn't make sense to me at all. And there are those that exist, but by and large, like, I think it's a generally healthy community. I mean, like you all have been to conferences and you meet the people there, and people tend to be really like friendly and open to hear what you have to say. And I love that.
Very much so.
Yeah. All right. Well, happy Paranormal Day to you all.
Thank you.
Paranormal Day to you as well.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
It's wonderful to join tonight. Thank you so much.
This
Thank
was
you so
fun.
much. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for
It
hanging
was
out.
a lot of fun.
All right. Thank
Thank
you for listening. If you're going to listen to this on the podcast later on, and thank you everyone for hanging out and watching tonight. This is Coffee and UFOs 2021 edition, kicking it off.